Nigel droog is gewoon goed gespannen, maar dat hoort erbij op deze prachtige dag met deze mooie prestatie. Het is ook goed om te kijken hoe die duik in elkaar zit, want van 26 meter gebeurt er nogal veel. We kijken naar filmpjes waar we in eerst zien wat is cliff diving. Joey, what do we see?
Before the competition or just even the night before any competition, I mean, you just can't get the dives out of your head. Even sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night and I'm thinking about my dives. The preparation to be a cliff diver, it takes a long time. I've done thousands of dives over 25 meters, and it's the only way you can prepare yourself to do the more difficult dives and still make sure you're going to be safe. If you were to break down a dive into parts, well, the first part is obviously, you know, the takeoff. You need a good, strong takeoff. A good takeoff, it almost guarantees a good entry in the water. And after the takeoff, it comes all the tricks in the air. You know, you're gonna do all your somersaults, all your twists. This is a pretty complicated part of the dive. And then the last part is the water entry. That's the most, the most dangerous part. You want to make sure you have a good line. You want to be, perfectly vertical to make sure that nothing's going to hurt. If everything goes well, then after that underwater, you're just a happy guy.
Goed, u zag een clip van Orlando Doeke, 9-voudig wereldkampioen. Hij sprak heel ontspannen over het feit hoe je dat allemaal kan doen op de duik. Ze staan daar bij een prachtige warmhout gaslamp, zodat het niet al te koud wordt voor zodat de spieren lekker warm blijven. En we zien ook goed om te kijken naar de basics van het cliff diver. Wat heb je nou precies nodig? Laten we even kijken naar de basics.
In diving, there is different groups of diving. For example, you can stand on the platform facing forward and you're going to spin forward. That's forward takeoff. You can stand backwards and you're going to spin backwards, backward takeoff. And then the next one is a little bit more complicated. You're going to stand forward, you jump off the platform, you're going to spin backwards. That's a reverse takeoff. The next one will be like an inward group. You stand backwards and you're going to spin into the platform inwards. That's a bit complicated too. Then to all these 4 different groups, forward, back, reverse, and inward, you can also add twists. So, that creates a full 4 new groups. And to make things even more complicated, you can add an arm stand and add the same group, forward, back, reverse, and then also add twists to it. So there's all these small different elements that a combination of those is what makes a dive.
De basics dus voorwaarts, achterwaarts, contra, dat zijn een aantal onderdelen die zo gesprongen worden. What is the most difficult part to jump? I mean, in the basics.
I guess the most difficult part is to find the control, the right speed on takeoff. I mean, you don't want to be going too fast and over-rotating when you land back, or you don't want to be going too slow and land on your stomach. So I think it all begins at the beginning on the platform. So you need that part right first.
Het moeilijkste is om in ieder geval de juiste snelheid te hebben, want als je te snel gaat dan kom je op je rug, als je te langzaam gaat dan kom je op je buik. Dus dat zijn geen handige dingen, dus de juiste snelheid op die hoogte is van essentieel belang. And what kind of jump is the most difficult in cliffdiving?
Well, I guess it's the dive with the most amount of somersaults and the most amount of twists, but each diver has their own favourite takeoffs. You know, some divers like to twist more, some divers like to rotate more. But basically there's a degree of difficulty system whereby the most difficult dive is the most amount of somersaults and the most amount of twists.
Het is heel erg afhankelijk van de duiker. Sommige duikers hebben een voorkeur voor salto's, sommige voor twist. Dus het is afhankelijk van de duiker als een voorkeur wat ze als moeilijk ervaren. De een vindt dit makkelijk, de ander vindt dat misschien wel juist heel ingewikkeld. Goed, zullen we gaan kijken naar een clip over met name de hoogte van 26 meter. Als je daar zo staat, dan lijkt het misschien niet zo hoog. Maar als je daar boven staat, geloof me, het is hoog.
One of the great things of Red Bull Cliff Diving Series is that we're going to be diving from 26 meters at all the stops. 26 meters is a good height because it allows the divers to do the more difficult dives they're preparing. And also it forces the diver to show control. If you're a little bit lower, you can still maybe cheat a little bit and get lucky with some of the entries. At 26 meters, you have to be prepared and show real control of your dive. When you go above 26 meters, I mean, you have to think about that any meter that you add, even though you're adding it on top, when you're falling, you're actually adding it at the bottom. So when you're traveling at about 80, 85 kilometers an hour, think how long it takes you to travel 1 meter. It's this, that's it, nothing. However, the impact with the water is much, much bigger. The risk increases way too much for the amount of airtime that we get. Risk versus reward, it doesn't equal. I think in the last few years, you know, we've seen divers push the limits of what is possible in the sport. This year, obviously, there is an added motivation to that. The Red Bull Cliff Diving Series is the best event we've had in the history of the sport. So now the athletes are preparing even harder. They're trying even harder tricks. And I think the level is going to be raised to a point where only a few years ago we thought it wasn't possible. Everybody's doing a good job. Everybody's preparing themselves physically and mentally to be able to do these dives. And I think throughout the series we're going to see great diving, not only, you know, great quality of diving, but also great difficulty.
De hoogte, 26 meter. Joey, why isn't it 27, 28 or 30 meters or 25 meters? Why exactly 26 meters?
That is the most comfortable height for the cliff divers. It means also it's enough height and enough room to do those really complicated dives. But I will say